Welcome back to another Free Agents podcast. As always, it's Baz here. With me, I have Rigger Chicken Dinner.
How are we, boys? What's up?
And once again, I've got Choc, also known as City de la Chocolate to all the Spanish folks out there.
What's poppin'?
Today, we're going to talk about the injuries so far in the NBA. As you all know, we've played half the games in the bubble so far. And we are going to discuss, which topic I'm very excited to talk about, is the future face of the NBA.
Ooh.
Before we get into all of that, once again, we have the 24-second news with Choc. Choc, take it away.
All right, sweet. So we've had the Lakers and the Bucks have both clinched number one in the West and the East, respectively. Luka became the youngest player to hit a 30-20 triple-double, putting up 34 points, 20 rebounds, and 12 assists. The award finalists have been named today with the MVP finalists King James, Giannis, and Beard. News from last week, Tom Thibodeau has been announced as the Knicks coach. And of course, as Baz said, we've had some big injuries come through this week. So Ben Simmons has left the bubble for surgery to his kneecap. His return time is unknown. And the unfortunate one, Jaren Jackson Jr., is done for the season with a torn meniscus.
Thank you for that. So Rig, as you know, Ben Simmons has left the bubble. He had a dislocated kneecap. What's your thoughts on the impact that's going to have on Philadelphia moving forward?
It's pretty big. I don't think it is as big as everyone says it's going to be. I think you've got Joel Embiid already, who can be a monster in the post when he wants to be, and then you've got an established veteran in Tobias Harris. I think Simmons is obviously going to be a loss. Every time you lose an all-star and a future great of the game, it's going to be a huge impact to your team. But in the East, you can get away without having him there. I just think that they're not going to be challenging, in my opinion, for the Eastern Conference Finals anyway with the roster that they had. But I definitely think that Embiid and Harris can survive them through to the second round.
Yeah, so just a little more context behind that injury. So Alan Crabb, formerly of the Portland Trail Blazers, Brooklyn Nets, got a massive contract somehow.
Somehow.
18 million, and now he's at the Timberwolves, probably going to be out of the league next year. He had a similar injury where he missed 11 days. But Ben Simmons has more structural damage in the area, which obviously is going to cause him to miss a lot more time. And it's actually similar to injury to the great Laker, Andrew Barnum.
Great Laker. Asterisk. Great Laker. The GOAT of the Lakers.
Andrew Barnum, because he had, 12 years ago, he was meant to miss a few weeks, months. He ended up missing the whole season due to injury back in January.
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned, or I'm sort of thinking, what's the Sixers going to do? Do they think they're a possibility to challenge this year for the championship? Are they going to bring him back? Or, because we know there's going to be a short off season, are they just going to wait and go, oh, it's a bit risky to bring him back so early and just get him ready for next season?
Well, as of yesterday, he was announced to be back by September the 1st, I think it was. And then this morning, he's been updated as out indefinitely. So unlikely he'll return for any of the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart move. I don't think they have enough to push them towards the championship. They might scrape through to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I don't think they're up there competing with the Raptors or the Bucks. So I think it's probably smart to just leave him out. And on top of that, he can continue to develop that jump shooting. Not that you obviously want to do that through injury, but it gives him some time to get better as he heads into next season.
That's right. And what you most likely will see is Al Horford move to the power forward role, and then they'll have Shake Milton at point guard.
Yeah, that's it. I think Shake Milton is easily just going to continue as the starting point guard, and Horford's just going to slot straight into the starting lineup. And as I brought up last week, my concern, though, is you're going to have two big men in the post. Is that going to force Horford a little bit off his game now, in the sense he's just going to be shooting threes, or are they going to try and play a bit of high-low and something like that? But the other point I want to make on these Simmons things for our Aussie fans is we got the Olympics next year. And I know Ben Simmons has flip-flopped about whether he's going to play or not, but I think this puts it almost out of contention that he's going to play.
Yeah, it's going to have a big impact for as well the 76ers and also with the Australian national team. If the 76ers play well without Simmons, do you think they will see the future without Benny Simmons being there? Well, and build the team around Embiid?
It's been a while that we've been watching the process, and I felt like the process should have already arrived. And you've looked at the roster they've had the last few years, whether it be Jimmy Butler on the roster, Al Horford, obviously Tobias Harris has been there throughout the process. You've got Josh Richardson now. They have the talent. Why are they not winning? Yeah. And it comes down to a question, as you just mentioned, is it chemistry? Can Embiid and Simmons play together? Are they the right duo to play together? I think at some point, either this offseason or next offseason, you have to make a decision whether you want to proceed with Simmons or Embiid, and where the other one's going to go, to see if you can build a better championship roster around one of them rather than the two of them.
So just a little bit of a rumor mill. As of probably a couple of days ago, I have heard that the Cavs are looking at offering a couple draft picks and some young talent for Simmons.
That's not a bad option. I mean, the problem I find with Simmons is until he gets a consistent jumper, he's just going to be a point forward that can only work inside the post.
Yeah, he's still gonna merit a first round draft pick if he does get traded, or at least an established star.
Yeah.
In the league. But that's obviously see what happens in the bubble and the playoffs and moving forward with injuries.
And that's it. There's a lot to happen between now and then. Like, is someone going to trade? Are the Cavs going to trade for an injured star? That's another issue. Like, there's so much. I still think that they're going to play at least most of next season with him. Might see some more rumors swirl around the trade deadline, but you have to give them one more shot at it with a full season and see if you can pull a rabbit out of the hat and actually get the process to be finally happening.
Exactly right. And another big injury, which Choc mentioned, Jaren Jackson Jr.
Huge injury.
That's pretty sad.
Meniscus torn.
Yeah.
Could have surgery. It's a huge impact. His time in the bubble is over. He's not going to feature in the playoffs. How do you think that's going to impact the Grizzlies?
To me, that's huge with the Grizzlies. Like, they've already been struggling. I think they're 1-4 in the bubble currently.
Yeah.
Everyone's catching their heels in the West. I think they're going to get taken over and they're going to fall to that 9th seed and have to play double elimination win. That's 7.5 points a game as well that they've got to pick up. And although he's not a dominant big man just yet, it's sort of his shooting, his rebounding. He does a bit of everything that I feel like they just don't have anyone to fill that void. Like, Valanciunas is not going to start putting up astronomical numbers.
Because you probably see Brandon Clark start.
Well, that's it. And it's going to have to be either the Dylan Brooks or the Brandon Clark step-up show. Like, one of those two has to take on the next sort of leap into helping out John Morant. Because right now, he seems to be struggling a little bit. So I think the linchpin is, especially, as you said, on Brandon Clark to actually take that role and run with it. But it's concerning. I don't see Memphis. I think that's like the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I didn't see Memphis winning the fight for the 8th seed in the playoffs. I certainly don't see it happening now. They still lack depth.
I didn't expect them to be garbage. Like, let's be honest, they've been absolutely trash.
Yeah,
they've been absolutely struggling. And we all saw Portland. We said Portland was going to take over. But I don't think I really expected Memphis to put up such a little fight as they did. And as we mentioned last week, there's a very tough schedule ahead for them.
Well, I mean, they got dumped on by the Pelicans just over the week. Zion came back and put on some points there and kept Ja quiet. And then obviously the Jazz came through and dumped on him as well, 124-115.
Yeah, they're just not winning the games that I thought they would be more competitive in. Like, they seem as if they thought they were looking towards that elimination game too soon. And they weren't taking care of the business beforehand.
Yeah, I still believe Memphis will make the play-in for the 8th spot, after they won a game against OKC. However, I only see them making that due to the other teams around them not winning. So I see Portland jumping them or finishing 9th.
Well, and that was the thing. Like, if they hadn't beaten OKC, I would have been like, I think the Spurs are going to catch. And I think it's going to be Spurs-Portland sort of like 8-9 seed. But I think that win with OKC has taken a lot of pressure off them. And I think they're just going to... The only thing that will happen is I think they just might slide to 9th. I think they're okay to make the final elimination game. I just don't think they'll be a one win away from it.
Yeah, because obviously you want to finish 8th. It gives you 2 opportunities to win.
You need to finish 8th. You get that 2 chances to win and you're in. And you get that 1 chance to win. That's it. It's all good.
Yeah, that's right. And if you finish 9th, obviously you just got to win. You've got to win both games.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, there's still a lot to unfold. We've still got 3-4 more games left per team. As you mentioned, the Spurs have done some things that I didn't expect they were going to do, especially with LaMarcus Aldridge out there fighting for that 9th spot.
Yeah, they've been playing really well. They remind me of that sort of like that old school pop mentality where they just hustle and grind and they're grinding out games and they're playing good defense and rebounding and taking really quality shots and making that extra pass to find the better bucket. It is the old pop Spurs. I thought they'd kind of gone away from that a little bit since DeRozan had come along. But since they've gone back into the bubble, it seems like while other teams are trying to do something the same old, they've changed it up a bit and gone back to their old style, which is really working well for them.
3 or 5 in the bubble.
Yeah, so they will just miss out, in my opinion, of the 8th and 9th spot.
Yeah, no doubt they'll miss out, and I think it's purely just because of the number of games. That's all it is, and the competition as well. I just think if you had LaMarcus Aldridge on that side, if they win 4 or 5 out of 5, but I'm just shocked. I'm very impressed by them. I thought for a little while that the dynasty is over and that maybe Pop should retire and move on. But I'm also sitting there now like, well, he might still have something in it. I know he doesn't want to move towards that 3-point jacking up fest that we see now in the NBA, but they found a way to win without doing that.
Yeah, that's right. And who I'm more surprised by is actually the Phoenix Suns.
Ooh.
They are the last.
Because we ragged on
undefeated
the
team.
ragged on this team.
I ripped the Suns.
Hold on, I'm
You
gonna
should
run.
actually apologise.
I want to run that clip back for everyone to listen to, so so they know.
I would like to apologize to D-Book. No one else though. I'm not apologizing to anyone else.
How about that game winner against the Clips?
That's a great
Oof.
shot. Straight, and again, I just like to point out over Paul George.
That's
Just
it,
a
mate.
Yeah.
running theme, mate. Running theme in the league.
Poor George has that unfortunate incident, man. It's just like the OKC last
It's not
year.
even unfortunate. Just play defense, mate. It's not hard. Get up in someone's grill. Like,
But it wasn't his grill. You just see D Book just comes and
He
does
hit
the
the
turn.
fadeaway, the double pump, and it was in with like 0.2 on the shot. I was like, it's over.
Yeah,
But
it's great. He's a great young player.
really good
He's
young
great.
player.
He's great.
But
I really like him.
I didn't think the Suns would do this well. And I don't know if it's
No.
because other teams are not taking them seriously or they're just resting players against them. I mean, I might be taking away from the Suns in saying that, but I didn't expect them to win that many games. I thought they would literally, I didn't even think they'd be invited to the bubble. They should have been invited to the bubble. I should have just left them at home, but they're proving me wrong.
Yeah, they're great to watch. I mean, I didn't watch much Phoenix games because now every game is obtainable on ESPN.
Yeah.
Watching some of the Phoenix players, they got a young talent there with
Yeah.
Booker, Ayton, Mikal Bridges is okay on the wing
And
and can defend the three.
they've got the veteran presence, and I know a lot of people will rag on him, but Ricky Rubio, I think, is sort of a calming presence over at Phoenix. I think he's someone that can control the ball, take the ball out of Devin Booker's hands, and allow Devin Booker to sort of play a role where he can step in and step out of being the primary ball handler. And then obviously the big concern, though, for the Phoenix Suns moving forward is what do you do with Devin Booker? You need to get better around him. Ayton's a solid young player, but do they eventually turn into a duo star, or is maybe Ayton just too young?
Yeah, well, they're going to have a decent round draft pick coming up.
Yeah, in a weak draft, but yeah, it's going to be a lottery pick for sure.
So they'll make some moves. They might draft the pick or they might trade it, depending on what they want to do. Draymond Green made some very disrespectful comments.
Yeah.
Baz is not happy about
I'm
Draymond
not happy
Green.
about this. Just because it was live on TNT, like this wasn't a tweet or
Yeah.
an Insta comment.
100%.
Like he said, get D-Book out of Phoenix. Yeah, how about we get D-Book out of Phoenix and we trade him to the Warriors so you can go to Phoenix?
Yeah, that's it. And
Let him know, Baz.
Exactly, and especially for a bloke still in the league. It's one thing for a past player to say it, but the man's still in the league and he's going to be playing the Phoenix Suns next season. So I think it's a big call to make, especially when there's rumors of him getting the sign-in trade for Giannis as well. So I don't know about Green. He should be very careful about what he says because I could easily see him being on the trading block for next year's Warriors.
Yeah, and D-Book signed a 5-year deal back in 2018, so he's going to be there for another 3 years.
Yeah, and he reminds me of that sort of Dame in the sense that he's loyal to the place that he was drafted to.
Yeah, he's the young star. They're going to build around him, and they'll be able to. In a couple of years, they're going to be a real big playoff contender.
Yeah, what you find with most rookies is they finish their rookie deal, then they'll sign their first long-term deal with the original team that drafted them, show some loyalty.
Yeah.
And then once that deal's over, then you might see the opportunity to leave.
Baz, does it surprise you that Draymond Green says that sort of stuff, considering he went to the Warriors, the unloyal team where everyone goes to try and win a ring?
Where the snakes all congregate, mate.
Let's
Where
not
the
talk
snakes
about Kevin
congregate.
Durant. Trash.
It doesn't surprise me, like he's always been like that.
He just says what he
It's
wants.
just- Yeah,
And
he
that-
says what he wants. It's just inappropriate. I just found it like on live TV.
It's unnecessary. And it takes away from what the Phoenix Suns are doing in the bubble. Like,
Yeah.
instead of talking about how Devin Booker's playing, how the organization's playing in the bubble, he's just tried to tear them down and take away from what they're achieving. And I just think it was unnecessary drama. He's trying to stir the pot, basically, for no reason.
Good on Ernie Johnson for calling him out, saying is that tampering. Good on him.
EJ's the veteran.
Love
Yeah,
EJ.
That's right. Eastern Conference, I highly doubt there would be a 9th playing spot for the
There
8th
will not be.
seed. With how the Wizards have performed.
Garbage.
Very lackluster. Missing Bradley Beal. And the only team in the bubble that I can't see having a better record next season.
You know what's funny is we don't even say missing John Wall anymore because the bloke doesn't play. Like, playing
Nah, you forget about John Wall. He hasn't played. I can't remember last time he
2
played.
years. It's almost been 2 years now.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
He's been securing the bag from home for 2 years. There's no point. Like, I feel for the Wizards because obviously injuries happen and you can't predict injuries happening. But I would be moving John Wall on quick.
Yeah,
You got to either reset or do something because right now you're just sitting stagnant. You're not quite making the playoffs. You're not quite deep enough into the lottery. You're getting the first pick.
Yeah, well, that's like there's no point in finishing 8th or 9th if you're not going to compete because you're going to get stuck with a middle draft pick with 12 to 15. 16.
You fall in the realm of mediocrity and you just get stuck there because you still have enough talent that you're competing with the middle of the pack, but you don't get enough of the talent brought in to make you jump into that 5th, 4th, 3rd seed. and no one wants to go play for the Wizards. Like,
No.
I don't know if it's the front office is a shambles, but they haven't brought in a decent free agent.
Q Rig Wizards hate.
Well, I just can't. I can't think of a.
They've been like that for years.
When
Like,
was the last decent free agent that went there?
because they had that talk of Kevin, because Kevin Durant's from Washington.
Yeah.
They had that talk of getting KD, and he was not interested.
Yeah.
And he probably looked at that team and the organization and was like, "Nah."
Well, they're nobodies. They're not even even for a player who wanted to get themselves marketed. They're not a big market team in the sense they're not got a high value. They're not bringing in big money. They're not great for sponsorship deals, and they constantly are on the bubble of an East playoff spot, which in the last few years has been everyone gets in.
Yeah, that's right. It's been like that for like 15, 20 years, going back to Gilbert Arenas, Deshaun Stevenson.
Yeah, they've always been like team that's got one or two talented guys, but like never actually go anywhere.
Yeah, they never make the final push. They win one or two playoff games.
We're wasting Bradley Beal's career. Someone save the man. Somebody trade for
they
Beal,
need to
please.
They need to just reset and trade him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they need to do a reset. They need to trade their stars. I don't know if anyone will take on John Wall.
Stars.
Yeah, well, star,
Star.
star, and injury star. Yeah, but they need to make a trade. Either get rid of Wall or get rid of Beal, and just allow him to have a career and allow them to reset. Because as I said, they've got some young pieces, and they've also got Bertans, who's had a breakout season as well, coming over from the Spurs.
Yeah.
And and Rui, I'm not going to hate on him, but they got Rui, who can be a good player when he wants to be.
Hey, he put up 23, 6, and 2 in the last game.
Name another guy on that squad.
Thomas
Troy-
Bryant,
Troy
22, 8, and 1.
You know it's bad when Satoransky, I think, is getting like starting point guard minutes. Like, seriously. But yeah, so that's the East is, I'm not going to say they're sad, but I look at it and I go, well, first and second, Bucks and Raptors are going to absolutely slap the Nets and Magic. So that's a walkthrough. The real spice is in that middle tier between that 3 and 6 matchup, which currently sitting is going to be Celtics 76ers, and then Heat Pacers in 4 and 5. Now that is they could both go 7 games.
Yeah, it'd be very close. And the Boston Celtics have a superstar in their hands with Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, really good player. And I think he's kind of taken on that, like, what I thought Hayward or Kemba Walker would do, and he's that duo now with Tatum.
Do you think there's a possibility to see Boston mix it up a bit and actually have Jaylen Brown lead the second unit of Boston? Because as you know, in the playoffs, teams adapt and make changes to throw teams off. He would be great to lead, the be a 6-man.
Solid energy. And what you do, so you start with like Kemba at the 1, you go Smart at the 2, Tatum at the 3, Tice at the 4, Hayward at the 3, Tice at the 5, and then Tatum at the 4.
Yeah.
And then you have Jaylen Brown as that 6 man.
Because currently, Boston actually have the second worst bench production of points per game, which is 28 points per game, behind Portland.
Yeah, and I think you can.
And Clippers bench ranks number 1 when you've got Lou Williams and Harold on your team.
Two possible 6 men of the year.
You're going to rank number 1. But there's something that I think they need to consider if they want to go far, is maybe make a lineup change and have Jaylen Brown. You see all the time in playoffs, especially when it comes to matchups.
Yeah, and I think he has the kind of personality to accept that 6-man role. He's still going to get his minutes. It's not like he's not going to play that 23 to 26 sort of minutes per game at least. But if he's willing to take that role, I feel. So I think you could have him, and then obviously you got the rebounding machine in Enes Kanter off the bench as well, who doesn't have a huge defensive presence, but he can get on the boards, whereas Tice is a bit more a defensive player. So you can have Jaylen Brown and Enes Kanter off the bench. It's not a bad bench. You got scoring and the ability to rebound for him. I think that's what they need. And I think Hayward is a starter in the sense that he's consistent. You know what you're going to get out of him pretty much day in, day out. But I'm all in. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. I think because at the moment with the bench production being so low, it doesn't surprise me that it's like that with Enes Kanter at center, because you can't have your best player being center.
Yeah.
Off the bench. Because you're an energy guy.
Yeah, not in the current NBA. No, it's not going to work running your bench rotation through your center. Really, the whole point, in my opinion, of when your backups come in is energy, intensity, running the floor, getting up and down, taking advantage of those starters who may be a little bit more tired, or those bench guys who haven't seen a lot of minutes and don't have that sort of the fitness to keep up. You should be running and gunning in that second unit. You shouldn't be running half-court slow plays. Like, you want to see energy and hustle.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Exactly. And I think for me, Jaylen Brown can put up 30 with
ease,
blinking, like just about bang 30, and you're like, if you've got that off your bench, that's extremely big quality for Boston, and I think it's something they could use. As I said, very poor production from their bench this season.
That's right. And as you mentioned earlier, Portland have made it theirs to lose pretty much for the 9th spot or the 8th spot.
Yeah.
With Nurkic returning, he's made a huge difference as long as Zach Collins.
Yeah, I think now we're starting to see what we should have seen all season if they had a healthy team.
Yeah, they would have been 40. They would have won 40+ games.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think they would have been pushing for that top 5 seeding, really giving the Rockets and teams like that. And I think they would have been ahead of the Jazz. But the Mavs, the Rockets, and the Jazz really pushing them to see if they can get that top 4 spot. They lost today, obviously, to the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard or Pat Bev. But I'm not too worried about that. I think the Clippers are obviously an extremely talented team. We think they're going all the way to Western Conference Finals at least. So I think that, are you worried for the Lakers if they do get into that 8th seed?
They'll put up a fight. I think they will actually surprise a lot of people on how well they perform.
I think with the Lakers shooting percentage at the moment, I think that they should be very worried.
Yeah, they're definitely struggling. I think what we saw was something like they're shooting 24.3% from 3 in the bubble, the Lakers at the moment, and Danny Green has gone 8 for 31, and he just didn't even attempt a 3 in their Rockets game while still playing 20 minutes. So I think Dame and CJ, who are great outside shooters, alongside like Gary Trent Jr., Zach Collins, they have a very complete team. They don't really have, not the star present, but they don't really have the veteran mix with a star sort of team that can...
MVP Carmelo.
Yeah, well, like you look at it, like I think Carmelo is a solid player. I don't think he's the linchpin.
But has he ever gone to... Well, how far has he ever gone to the playoffs? I don't think he's ever made an NBA Finals.
No, I think the Western Conference Finals is the furthest he's gone with the Nuggets.
Nuggets, yeah.
But,
and that was... I'm pretty sure that was against the Lakers.
Yeah, I think it was against the Kobe Lakers. They ended up winning the championship that year, I believe. But I don't see them beating the Lakers, but they could easily push to 5 or 6 games.
Yeah. They will... in confidence, they will win 1 or 2. I have no doubt Portland will win a game or 2 against the Lakers.
Yeah, and you've got to remember one of the things about the bubble, which people need to note, is they're not going anywhere. So they're staying in the same hotels in the same area, and they're playing in the same arena. So you're not having that travel issue anymore. Not finishing a game at 9 o'clock at night, and then you got to travel to LA, rest, and then get into a game. They're resting overnight, and they'll play again the next day.
That's right. As you mentioned, the Portland just lost to the Clippers this morning. Damian Lillard actually missed 2 free throws.
Yeah, it's unlikely
to win the game.
Very unlikely.
And Patty Bev was...
And Pat Bev was there going...
being a savage.
Don't even start me on Pat Bev.
Firstly, you can't say anything when you're not suited up in the game. Like, you're wearing street clothes. Just sit down and put your mask on.
And not just that as well. After the game, he gets onto the court and he starts doing the Dame wave.
But Pat Bev's always been that kind of player.
He's always been that guy. Ever since he injured Westbrook,
he's just
horrible.
He's a bastard.
He's just I mean, there's a place for him in the NBA. Like we saw Draymond used to do that a little bit for the Warriors. Tony Allen was a big kind of like niggle guy that used to get under your skin.
Yeah.
I think Pat Bev is one of those guys who rides high and low on emotion of how a team's going. I reckon if you can shut him up by shutting the team up. I think he's got nothing to say when the Clips are struggling, but he's all mouth when the Clips are doing really well.
Yeah, and Bron does that very well especially when the Lakers and Clips play. You see that they get into it, and Bron will just say, "No."
He doesn't give him anything. So I think that's the good part about it is if you don't give him anything, which I think players like Dame and players like LeBron, if you don't give him anything, he's got nothing to work with.
Yeah, that's right. Like, it's just very frustrating to see players act like that. Paul George is still obviously upset because he was saying you're going
salty
home.
AF.
Still upset that Dame hit that shot to send him over, OKC home. Just happens to him.
Well, I think the saddest part about all this drama that's popping up is we're not going to see the matchup. There will be no Clippers Trailblazers this season, I can tell you that. But, a little bit of spice heading into the playoffs, nothing wrong with that.
You never know. Trailblazers might go all the way to the Western Conference Finals.
Note that down. All
right, let's just tie this down now.
It might happen. Next, I'm very excited to talk about this. The future face of the NBA. Ooh. Once LeBron James is retired.
Once he's moved on,
which could be 2-3 years.
Yeah, I think it's still 2-3 years away, but it's coming. The end is near. He's past the time of mid form. He's heading towards the time of hanging them up.
Yeah. Do you think Zion will be the next face of the NBA, or is it going to be Luka Doncic?
I disagree with you. I know you've been plugging this one for weeks to talk about, but it's just going to frustrate me. But I'm all in on Luka, and I think the reason is because Luka is unlike anything we've seen in a long time. A established stud at such a young age who both puts up astronomical numbers, but while not causing any drama, not having any problems, just goes about his business day in, day out. He's been a professional basketball player since, I believe, 16 years of age.
Real Madrid 16.
Yeah, 16. And he's been playing in the youth teams, a professional team, since he was 12, I believe, as well. On top of that, so he knows how to play basketball firstly, and he also now knows how to be a basketball player, which a lot of people can't do. And there's no knock on Zion, but I just think that Luka brings a global brand to the NBA.
Yeah. So when we say face of the NBA, where we talk about, you think of the NBA, you think of one player. At the moment you think of NBA, you think of LeBron James.
Yeah, you think of the king.
Previously it was Michael Jordan, and at a moment in time it was Kobe Bryant. Luka, I can't see it being Luka Doncic purely because he's from Slovenia. And I can't see them embracing someone from outside of the United States being the face of that league. They pushed very hard for Zion to be that, especially with being the cover star of 2K.
Way too early, by the way. Way too early.
Yeah, that's like...
So many people...
That's really unheard of. It's actually hard to become a cover of like Madden, NHL,
They were making him
NBA.
the NBA cover when he was still playing for Duke. That's I felt like everything was gearing up towards him being the face of the NBA when the man hadn't even left college yet. That's where I'm sort of like... And he's marketable. There's no doubt he's marketable. You know, again, similar to Luka, he's a professional. He's obviously been in the spotlight for a couple of years now. But I do agree that they don't like the idea of a non-American being the face of the NBA. But I just don't know at this point. The jury's still out whether Zion will be a perennial all-star, will be an MVP candidate, will be the quality of player on the court that they want for their brand.
That's right, because Zion was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. It's actually a very similar cover to what they did with LeBron. Sports Illustrated basically had the article Zion leading Generation Z of next wave of superstars. And it's very similar to the article of the cover of Sports Illustrated where it says LeBron James, the chosen one.
Yeah.
So they're marketing him. They're pushing extremely hard for him to be the next face. There's no doubt about Luka Doncic is going to be multiple MVPs.
I think
multiple All-Stars.
So Baz, just something on that as well, and I think this is probably something that's very relevant in this current climate, this current social climate, is with all the with all the social justice that the NBA are pushing with the Black Lives Matter and things like that. I think that Zion will very likely be the face. They are going to look for an African American to be the face of a global brand like the NBA. It's a lot better of a look than they would if they went behind a person who is Caucasian or not African American descent.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to what you said earlier, Baz, about him being American on top of that, whereas Luka being a European player. I know also the feats of athleticism where Zion can just like leap out the gym to make a block, can get crazy alley-oops. I think that's something that a lot of the global market do enjoy, is seeing those kind of non-everyday basketball highlights. Whereas Luka sort of seems like he's moving at a slower pace than everyone else. He's still hitting unbelievable shots and is consistent but he just seems like he's moving like your local bloke at the Urban Rec League.
But I think also, just in saying, we're talking about Luka as well, I think Luka and Giannis are a very, very good brand for the NBA Europe. You've got two massive European players that are at the top of their game and at the top of the league. It's it's a good look for NBA Europe.
Well, I think the other thing we forget is that Giannis is only 25, I believe, 26.
26.
Could Giannis slide in as the face of the NBA? I mean, he already is somewhat the face of the NBA right now. One MVP, possibly a second MVP on the way. He's African American, obviously has an African descent from Greece, so he's got that combination between the two. Could he slide into that?
I see it being homegrown.
America.
I see it being homegrown. Just quickly, I want to read these stats out because these are crazy. So we'll start with Luka Doncic. So per 36 minutes, Luka Doncic averages 31 points, 10 rebounds, and 9.5 assists.
Wow.
And like that is what is he nuts.
21, I think,
That's
second
ridiculous.
season in the league? Like second or third season? Wow.
Like that is incredible. And he obviously he set his career high in rebounds 1 or 2 days ago for 20 boards.
Yeah, and he's putting the Mavs on his back. Wherever he goes, they go.
Yeah. And Zion per 36 minutes, this is actually pretty incredible as well because we only see him play 20 minutes a game.
Yeah, let's see him get on the court first. But anyway, go ahead.
29 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists.
It's really good.
Like that is really impressive.
They both got really good numbers. There's no doubt about that. But Luka's gonna be a star, and he is a star, and he is a stud. Yeah. So for me, I want to see Zion do something first. I want to see him play a full season. I want to see him take over games more so than the little bit of highlights we've seen. He's definitely a great player. He's definitely got a lot of talent. But Luka is Luka magic. People tune in to watch him play. You know, Dallas has embraced him. Dallas loves him. Him paired up with Kristaps, like 2 European players playing in America, and Dallas is all in, which is, you know, the heartland of America, as most people say. Whereas Zion, he's not even the best player at the Pelicans.
Yeah, not yet. It's all going to come down to how often he plays and the injuries and the team around him. He might be at the Pelicans his whole career, might not. There's going to be a lot of variables to it. If Zion is not the next face of the NBA, I don't think it would be Luka. It might actually even be Jason Tatum.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad call. Like, instead of saying one individual, I would say if it's not going to be Luka, for me, it'll be a 3 or 4 kind of guys. It'll be shared. I don't think they'll do it's on Jordan, it's on James. It'll be more of a shared role. They'll plug 3 or 4 or 5 players like that. Your Giannis, your Doncic, your Zion, your Tatums, like good young studs. Big market teams, I think, also comes in and makes a factor. Like Tatum has Boston Celtics like history behind him. Boston sports fans are crazy. So that's a big thing to note as well, that he has the branding and the team behind him with the marketability. But if it's not Luka, it's going to be multiple people shared amongst. I don't think there's going to be the carrying on the shoulders that, you know, LeBron did, that Kobe did, and that Jordan did, because I just don't think any of these guys are that level. Like, you're talking top 5. We've had every generation for the last 3 generations has had what is a top 5 all-time player as the face.
In the history of the NBA.
And I don't see any of these guys being top 5.
I'm intrigued to see how they transition into a shared role, because as you mentioned, you haven't seen that for 30 years.
Yeah.
Probably goes way back longer than that, because then it was Magic Johnson and Larry Bird.
It's the Bird Johnson sort of. That's the last thing that I can think of where it's sort of a shared role of like who's controlling the NBA, and that was also a play on the old Celtics-Lakers rivalry. You're right. How are they going to do it? And the other thing as well is the Asian audience is a huge part of the NBA. Like, we saw the kickback that came from Daryl Morey's comments in regards to the protests over in Hong Kong. So you look at it and you go, who's also best for the Asian market, which is a growing and developing market for basketball?
Yeah.
With a couple billion people, that's a lot of money and a lot of marketability. So who's going to be best for that region of the world as well?
Yeah. And that's why I can't see it being shared purely down to that fact.
Yeah. I don't think you're wrong in Zion in the sense that, like, I could easily see it happening. I'm just not happy about it because he's not established. Why give someone something so early when he's done so little?
Yeah. Like Luke, I'm not saying Luke is not the most deserving, because he is. Yeah. He's obviously the better player. I'd rather have Luka Doncic on my team.
Well, if you're starting a franchise, who are you picking?
Yeah, you're
both picking Luka Doncic. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, or Giannis. It's going to be someone from Europe.
Yeah.
But it's going to come down to homegrown American talent.
Yeah.
Which is going to make the decision on this.
Well, it's up to Zion to play better on the court.
But are the Pelicans pampering him?
Well, yeah, I think so, a little bit. And I think the other thing as well is you're not even the best player on your team. I go back to it. I know I'm hyping on it, but right now, Brandon Ingram is the best player on that team. And so until you're the best player on your team, can you really be the face of the NBA?
Yeah.
I mean, we're still talking 2, 3, 4 years away until LeBron actually hands over the crown to someone else. But it's interesting to note, moving forward, is Zion going to, like, take it by the scruff of the neck?
Because the NBA, they're preparing for it.
Yeah, they're already pushing him.
Yeah.
100%. As I said, they're pushing him when he was at Duke. They're pushing him already. Like 2K putting him on the cover is unheard of for someone that young. Obviously, I'm Mr. Conspiracy Theorist over here, but giving the Pelicans a chance to actually get in the playoffs when I didn't think they deserved one because they wanted to see Zion play in the bubble. Give him more opportunities to play. I think if he wins Rookie of the Year, I will flip the table.
There is no way
Not
he's
a chance.
winning Rookie
He
of the
will
Year.
not win over Jar. If he wins over Jar, something's wrong.
We'll see.
Unless they go off the stats I just read out.
Yeah, of 20 games.
We're only going to get 36 minutes.
That's it. 20 games, 20 minutes, 20 points per game.
But I definitely think it's going to be multiple people first.
Yeah.
Wait and see.
It's going to be very interesting to see how it all unfolds. As I said, the NBA preparing for it.
Until then, it's the king.
Until
Still
then,
the king's
it's
throne.
King James, and then when Bronny James comes in,
Do you see King James and Bronny playing on the same team together?
he's pushing for it.
Yeah,
I know, I'm so
100%.
excited.
I think he'll hang around to either play with him or play same time as him. He wants the thing to say. He wants the NBA stat to say, LeBron James play with LeBron James Jr. Like, he wants to have that sort of first father-son to play, in the same game.
That'll be incredible.
It'd be quite interesting to see how that actually unfolds. Because if he becomes like a top 10 pick,
well, it's tough because right now he's still obviously still early days of high school. He's still a couple years away. Does he go the G League route? Does he go to overseas to play? By then have they changed the law that you can go straight from the NBA as long as you're straight to the NBA as long as you're 18 out of high school? There's so many different sort of factors that are coming in that need to happen before we can say, yeah, they're going to play together.
I think because he's got big name factor as well. I think you'll see him go like pretty much straight into the league if he can.
If I'm another NBA team, I'm going to draft him just to mess with the Lakers.
100%. Well, that's assuming he's still with the Lakers. But yeah, if I got a chance to take him, I'll take him just to stir things up.
I'm like, yeah, I want your next 5 future round draft picks.
Yeah, that's it. But again,
and LeBron James, trade him.
He's still only a teen, so there's so much that can happen between now and then. But he's showing a great promise, especially with all the spotlight on him. He's handling it very well. I think he's destined to the NBA, no doubt about it. It's just a matter of when, who, where.
Yeah, 100%. That's it for today. Thank you once again for tuning in. Cheers again to the boys, Rig and Choc.
Thank you, my G.
Boys, as the NBA season comes to a close next week, the regular season I might add, what is your game of the week? We'll start with Choc.
I got the Bucks and Raptors 8:30 Tuesday morning. It's looking like it's going to be the Eastern Conference Final preview, so big game there. Very excited.
1 versus 2 there. Rig, who you pick him?
Mate, I got the Spurs versus Jazz next Thursday, the 14th, and the reason is the load management queries. So the Jazz played the Spurs the other day, with the Spurs coming out on top, and the Jazz rested Mike Conley, Donovan Mitchell, and Rudy Gobert, which is surely pissing off other teams at the bottom of the West who are competing for that final seeding. So people are worried that the Spurs are going to get an easy team to come up against the Jazz because the Jazz will probably have their seeding already booked. So stay tuned to that to see what they actually put out on the floor.
That's it. Jazz might put up a fight with who they want to play in the playoffs. They might play their stars this time.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes out. We'll be back next week with the regular season coming to a close and the start of the NBA playoffs. Make sure you follow the Free Agents podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We'll see you next week.